Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Nilah supplementary guide, and it's going to be a really interesting one because basically with this build, we're going to have an IE rush as a first item. But you guys see the build here, this is not going to be the build. You can probably see from the thumbnail and things like that the real build is this. So we're basically going to of course start off with the Gluttonous Greaves at first for AD and Omnivam. Then we're going to go into IE as a first item. So IE rushes are really rare, but stay with me and I'll explain why. So we're gonna go for IE as a first item, which is gonna give you a large amount of AD as well as of course that bonus crit damage. But remember, we only have 25% crit at this point, so this is not gonna be too helpful. Now this is where all the item components come in. So we're gonna go for the Cloak of Agility for not 20% crit, another Cloak of Agility for not 20% crit, so this is plus 40% crit, and Brawler's Glove for another 10% crit, which is of course going to give you a total of 50% crit. So this is 20, 20, 10, and then here is 25. So you're gonna reach 75% crit when you reach this point, when you get all these components. So now, how does this help? Now obviously critting more often is good, but you're not getting completed items, so this is probably a horrible build, right? Well, yes, in a way, but the reason why it's actually good is because if we take a look at what Nilah does, if we can actually find it, there we go. So Nilah, her passive, when she crits, she heals herself for 20% of the damage dealt. So the more you crit, the more you're going to heal yourself. Alright, that's good, but it's still not worth going for that build. Well, when you take a look at her Q, she gains 35% crit rate as armor penetration. So when you rush crit, you're actually getting armor pen as well, which is of course amazing. So that makes it doubly good. And then after that, her Q active damage, every 1% crit rate increases the damage by 1%. So by rushing 75% crit, you're actually getting 75% extra damage on her Q. So now, at this point, the extra Q damage, the armor pen, as well as the healing all kind of just stacks up and makes it such that with this build on Nilah, where you basically rush crit, like so, actually becomes kind of good. You guys will see a little bit in the game later how, it actually can work, but you rush crit. And the components you get next are basically what built out of these items. So this of course Bloodthirster builds from the cloak, and obviously we get the Bloodthirster for the stats and the healing. Then we go for Collector. Now Collector, honestly not really my favorite crit item, but it's very viable on Nilah. A lot of people like to take it on Nilah, and the main reason I'm taking Collector in this build is because it builds out of the cloak. And if you take a look at my options, there's not a lot of items that build out of cloak. We've already taken the best two items, the IE as well as the BT, and then we have Collector, and I'm not gonna build like Essence Reaver or Charge Blade on Nilah. And yes, I could build like maybe build the Navori. But honestly at this point, just quickly get the Collector and move on. And then we have Maul Reminder. Now Maul Reminder obviously is gonna build out of the glove, because Maul Reminder doesn't build out of the cloak, so it builds out of that glove as well as the two other components. And at this point we are 100% crit obviously. And for your last item, again very flexible, you can go for GA. I do have actually some other options here. You can go for GA, you can go for Maul, you can go for Spirit Visage, you can go for Stirk's Gauge, Death's Dance, all of these items, Twin Guard, things like that as well. So for the runes, seeing as we are rushing crit and we're just trying to crit them to death, we have actually gone back to First Strike from Conqueror. Because First Strike, obviously, you have a higher chance to just one-shot them. And honestly, what I said initially when I talked about First Strike is still accurate, which is that Nilah is actually a very bursty champion. Like, she does a lot of burst damage, and honestly, her DPS is good, but I think her burst damage is where the power really lies. So First Strike kind of just makes sense. Brutal, because at the end of the day we still auto attack, and the other options are just not as good as Brutal. The Giant Slayer is pretty obvious, and of course here we have Alacrity for the attack speed, since we don't really have attack speed in our build. Of course we do get attack speed from our passive on the Q though, so there is that. And finally, you can either go for Second Wind for better laning power, or you can go for Sudden Impact. Now in this game I actually tried out Sudden Impact and tried to not have Second Wind, and actually it is viable if you don't get hardcore bullied. Having Sudden Impact is actually really great because it gives you a lot of additional damage. But of course in some situations, Second Wind is just going to be way better because you get bullied so much in lane that you basically have no health to go in anyway. And finally for the spells, obviously we have Flash and we have Exhaust. Because you're basically melee, so you're always going to be in range to exhaust somebody. So with all that out the way, let's jump into talking about our gameplay. Okay, so now we're into the gameplay now. Nilah is not a very popular ADC at all. Not too many people play Nilah, whatsoever. Of course, because she is basically a melee champion, and as an ADC player, like obviously you guys know I'm an ADC main myself. Feels really weird to play a melee champion, but Nilah, after you really learn her, she definitely does have her strengths. It's just that, in a lot of matches where Nilah would be good, like for example, Nilah is really good with a lot of engage, because you can follow up on the engage and you can just go in and deal damage. Other champions like Samira would just be better. Like if you have so much engage, why would you pick Nilah when you can pick Samira, right? So honestly, Nilah does have a niche, which is being melee, but like in terms of when you should pick her, there are just so many other better champions to pick most of the time, which is why I don't play Nilah very often, also because of her weird playstyle. But I do definitely enjoy playing her. And yeah, she definitely is pretty fun. So here against Blitzcrank Kai'Sa, Blitzcrank whiffs the hook. I honestly expected him to hit one of us with that hook because we're just stuck in the bush, right? But he misses the hook, which is great for us. And we are here, just farming now. This is a really weird situation because normally Nilah's getting hardcore bullied in lane, regardless of which ADC you're against. You lose to every ADC because you're melee, but the Kai'Sa is not actually stepping up to do anything. Now here, I somehow just get ditched by my Leona at like 1 minute into the game to recall, and she can't even buy any items, which is super weird. So I get hooked by Blitzcrank here, I think that I'm dead, I double dash away and flash away as well. Thankfully the Kai'Sa can't aim and misses her W, and yeah, so we barely escaped the situation by the skin of our teeth. Now we actually even traded flashes with Kai'Sa, so in all, that's not even a horrible situation, all things considered. Now here Leona goes in onto Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa ends up dying because she doesn't have flash anymore, as previously mentioned. Now Xin Zhao and Leona trying to go in for the Blitzcrank. They do get the kill onto him, and yeah, I end up picking up 2 quick assists. So I guess a relatively disastrous situation turned out to have a silver lining here, which is that we kind of ended up baiting in the enemy bot lane. Xin Zhao came in for the gank, and Leona hit a nice engage, and we end up getting 2 assists. Yeah, so as I was basically saying, yeah, Nilah is not really the most popular champion, and probably never ever will be. But yeah, if you can really learn her, Nilah definitely does have some really strong parts about her, just dashing around, dealing a lot of damage. And honestly, I think that Nilah has one of the most insane burst damages out of any like ADC like champion. Like she can even do more damage, like more burst damage than like a Draven. Like Draven double auto attack when you're fed versus like Nilah just one combo when you're fed. Like Nilah can one shot someone 100 to 0. Like you will see that later in the match as well, but you can actually one shot people like 100 to 0. So we will take a look at that a little bit later on. But Nilah's early game is where it's kind of the worst phase for you, because obviously you're a melee, you don't have items, you're not very fed yet, you can't really do anything much. And yeah, so in compensation for how trash her early game is, this is why when she's on like 3 items, she's one of the strongest ADCs in the game. Like 3 item Nilah with like Bloodthirster, IE, and one other crit item, depending on what you go for, is probably probably might be the highest damage ADC ever. So here Leona gets a good engage. I pull the Kai'Sa and the Blitzcrank with my ulti into the Leona ulti, but unfortunately they are a little bit too close to the tower and they are able to escape. Now Lilia comes in, I exhaust her instantly. I'm going in with all my damage onto them. I get knocked up, and I do eventually pick up 2 quick kills before dying to Kai'Sa. So overall, it's not a complete disaster. We traded 2 for 2 in a situation where we got ganked by the enemy mid laner, who is Lilia is the mid laner, by the way. Xin Zhao barely misses the flash W. But yeah, so Nilah gets compensated, for her trash early game by a very, very strong mid and late game. Like, probably one of the best scaling ADCs, in the game, and just completely insane mid to late game, which we will get to see that a little bit later on. But for now, all we really need to do is survive the early game. And we're doing a pretty good job of that now. We're 2-1 and 2 on Nilah in the early game, and if you have a positive KDA in the early game as Nilah, that's always good. In fact, 0-0-0 is also really good. Like, if you're playing a very scaling champion, having a 0-0-0 scoreline is always going to be a good thing, because it means that you're not behind, and you will be ahead at some point because of how well you scale.
Middle turret is under attack.
Just clearing up the wave here and pushing it in. Honestly, not too much action really happening here because as Nilah, you don't have a lot of agency in the lane at all. Now, Blitzcrank somehow misses a hook on Leona, who's not actually moving. Here we're going onto Blitzcrank. We probably can't kill him though, so we're just trying to get in a little bit of damage. The Leona ult comes in, I'm gonna ult as well, and we do eventually manage to kill him, but we committed 2 ults for it right before the dragon fight. So, honestly, this may not even be optimal. You could argue it is because you remove one enemy from the equation, but at the same time, means that you don't have it for, you know, a possible team fight. Either which way, Lilia decides to go in 1v4 and basically donates her life to us, which I don't mind whatsoever, and now making us 3-1-3. So now we're headed back to the lane. Now Kai'Sa is still sticking around because Leona is really low HP, so she might be a little bit baited by that. We're just going to recall here. Kai'Sa just farming the wave, not even trying to stop us. Here we pick up the IE at last. So here, I'm not even going to try to say we're on a 1 item power spec because yes, we kind of are in a way, but 25% crit with IE, just a coin flip. So we'll see if we get lucky, I guess. So here, I don't want to just walk right up to tower because I could get hooked in my Blitzcrank and CC'd and, you know, could be in trouble. So I'm waiting for Leona to come. Leona hits ulti for the slow onto Blitzcrank. Now, we're going to commit onto Blitzcrank. Kai'Sa actually comes in on the backline and I hit the W to prevent myself from taking too much damage. The Veil does, the Jubilant Veil, which is the W, does, you know, block all of the auto attacks. So, yeah. So here we can see Lilia, not we can see, but we suspect she's coming down from mid because she's missing. And because of that, we back off and we actually survive the gank. Leona takes quite a bit of damage, but overall we still survive. While in the bush because that's the most obvious spot Lilia would be in, and she walks out of the bush because she can be seen now. And this is a little bit of a sticky situation, right? In the 3v3 under the tower, and Lee Sin is actually heading down. You can see Lee Sin over there at the pit. He is likely gonna come here because why wouldn't he? He is making his way down here, so a little bit dangerous. You know, could get 4-man tower dive, and if they play the dive well, you know, we could die. But you know, if they botch the dive, it could mean they all die. You know, instead. 2-man sleep comes in. Leona ults, expecting someone to enter the tower, I presume, but no one actually does. Leona gets hooked, gets one shot basically, and Blitzcrank is really low. But unfortunately, I can't really go in there without unnecessarily risking, you know, my own life. So I'm just trying to be a little bit cautious about it. But with Blitzcrank out of the picture, you know, it's just the 2 squishies. So now it's me and Lux versus the Lilia and the Kai'Sa. Now here I try to go in, which I do. I hit a really nice ulti, but unfortunately now I'm stuck in a 1v4, trying to trade a kill onto somebody, anybody, but no one actually dies there. At least, as a silver lining, I got like 100 plus first strike goal, just because of the fact I hit 4 people with my ulti, I guess. So Blitzcrank for some reason still sticking around, eventually does end up dying, but I don't really get the assist anymore because it's been a little bit too long. And Leona tries to ult Lilia over the wall, doesn't quite work out. Lux ulti does come in, and Xin Zhao is eventually able to finish off the kill. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, you know, even though I did die, I did get them low enough for Xin Zhao to clean up the 2 of them. So it's not the worst situation in the world. And now we're headed back to the lane, you know, to just clear up the lane. And it's really funny because we're actually so strong at this point, 3, 2, and 3, that Kai'Sa is actually somehow scared of us, despite the fact that Kai'Sa is 1k gold up on me and she has 2 completed items. But she doesn't seem to want to really contest the wave and fight me. She's giving me the push, which is really weird to say the least. And yeah, so we have 1 crit cloak in the back already, so you can see we're getting quite a little bit of crits here. We know Blitzcrank's in that bush and we don't quite want to get hooked by him, so we're being a little bit cautious about it. Here we do end up getting hooked eventually, taking a bunch of damage. We're going to double dash out. And here, yeah, we pop our ult in a little bit of a panic there and end up hitting nobody. But yeah, here, Blitzcrank goes low. Kai'Sa pretty much gets baited in by me. Locket comes in to basically save me, and Kai'Sa has to kind of walk back out. Here, I'm just channeling recall because I'm like 1 HP. I'm not going to contribute to this fight. And I kind of end up getting baited by my team to stick around. Because as I said, Nilah does have insane one-shot damage. So sometimes if someone just oversteps a little bit, you can actually just one-shot them instantly before they can do anything to you. So that's kind of a little bit of why, you know, you sometimes get a little bit baited. Like here we got the double cloaks coming in at this point. So 65% crit for us already right now. You know, we can probably see some, you know, some big crits. with the IE damage as well. Now Lux just ulties the wave, although I'm already there. Really nice one, Lux. But yeah, okay, so let's see, you know, what happens next. We are in a really solid spot. Me and Xin Zhao tied for the most gold on our team, but the enemy team does have a lot more gold. Like Kaisa, Lilia, Lee Sin all have like 8k gold. Me and Xin Zhao only at 7k gold, and my team collectively is like 6k gold behind. So here I'm thinking enemy team is on the dragon, which of course they are. Leona goes in and doesn't really take any damage because it really just blitzcrank. The rest are hitting the dragon. So here I'm just going in. I try to steal with my ulti, doesn't quite work out. Now we're stuck in the pit, so I'm trying to kill someone before I die. I get the blitzcrank, nearly get the Lee Sin, but not quite. And we do end up dying. Now contesting the dragon, not really the best idea in hindsight because, you know, our jungler is not there. Like, how are we possibly gonna steal it? But yeah, so but we do actually end up picking up a kill, which I guess is not the worst situation in the world, which also allows us to complete the glove, which now gives us 75% crit. Of course, now that we've gotten the 75% crit, we're gonna transition in to building the rest of our build, which is of course gonna be like completing the Bloodthirster, completing the collector, you know, things like that. And it should be a lot faster because obviously we've gotten the item components for them already, so it should be quite a bit faster. But quickly grabbing this buff, we can see Lilia across the wall now. Of course, we know she's fed, so we don't really want to mess with her. We're just going to clear that ward, and we're going to hit down here and clear this wave. Just maintaining our farm. You know, when we hit a couple items, it is going to be where we're really strong. I mean, arguably now we're pretty strong already because we kind of faked our scaling by giving ourselves all of that crit, 75% crit. Because so this is where like we would be if we were like at 3 items, the same amount of crit. So, you know, there is even a world that this might be Nilah's optimal build. I'm not quite sure yet because I haven't tested it enough. Now Kaisa ults into the backline. I'm trying to one-shot her. I go in with the ulti. Down Blitzcrank goes, and Kaisa is next to follow. 3-man sleep comes in from the Lilia. It is now like a 3v3. Here's trying to finish off the set. Lee Sin is somewhere in the area as well. There he is, flashing away from Lee Sin, finishing off the set. Lee Sin thankfully hits the Q onto Xin Zhao and not me, so I know he's gonna follow it, so I'm quickly dashing onto him. He actually doesn't die. Lilia ends up attacking the tower instead because Lee Sin dashes out, so he basically sells his Lilia out. Now I know I can probably kill Lee Sin, but he takes the fruit, so it's a little bit risky. He kicks me, but I'm able to dash with the Q onto him to like basically burst him down, and we're able to pick up the kill onto him as well. So this is really the fight that kind of turned the game around for me, at least, because here you can see with those kills, I pick up a lot of gold. I complete my BT, which of course is a big item purchase, and now I'm of course building toward the collector, and that gave me a lot of gold. You can see now I'm at 10k gold, which is now you know, about on par with the Lilia and the Kaisa, still behind the Lee Sin though. Now my team is doing Baron because Lee Sin has a delayed death timer because of the fact that he ran away, which is why sometimes, ironically enough, if you're gonna die anyway, sometimes running away is actually worse because you just desync your respawn timer with your team, and the enemy team can take advantage of it. So that's exactly what we did in this case. So we grabbed a relatively free Baron, and yeah, we'll see what we can do with the Baron, I guess you could say. So here, Lee Sin getting caught again by Leona. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit too far away, and the Blitzcrank Glacial is here as well, so I can't really reach the fight, which is, of course, one of the problems of a melee champion. Like you see, I'm basically critting almost all the time, despite the fact I have 75% crit, not 100% crit, but I'm pretty much critting all the time here. So yeah, this really might be Nilah's like optimal build, because just rushing crit on Nilah seems to be the way to go. And if you're really gonna rush crit, why not get IE as your first item, right? Because it's gonna allow you to benefit from crit even more.
Ally slain.
Right, so now here the problem is we have Baron, but the enemy team is the one pushing us in, which just shows how weak our team is. Now here I was actually thinking of pushing, but I realized the problem, which is that my team doesn't have enough pressure to allow me to push, because if they do, if we do push, the enemy team is just gonna rotate and kill us because our team is like no threat. Nice Hex Splash by Leona to avoid that Blitzcrank hook. And at this point, I'm simply just going to reset, complete my collector. You can see, as I've been saying, the item completions just come so quickly. Like from getting that kind of cloak glove build, suddenly I've completed BT, suddenly I've completed collector, and now I'm like on 3 items already with the glove as well. So even though still at 75%, actually no longer at 75% crit, now we're at 85% crit. But I don't know what that interaction was, by the way. Like, how did I get hit by that Lee Sin kick? Like, did Xin Zhao not already stop? That was super weird, at least in my opinion. Like, it hit me like seemingly like a half a second after it supposedly should have. So I thought I was fine. But anyways, I went to grab the fruit there. We're just doing the dragon here. I actually end up securing the dragon here. I'm going in, flashing for the ult onto 3 people. I get 2 kills here. I'm trying to chase Lilia down. Eventually I pick up 3 kills. Now honestly, if this was not a Lilia and didn't have the poison, I could see myself getting a pentakill here by lifestealing off of the Skull Crab and then going onto the Kaisa and the Set, because Set doesn't do enough damage to me, and Kaisa we all know I can burst down. But yeah, a little bit unfortunate. Only the Nasus left alive. Nasus has been inting the whole game. He's 0-4-0. Somehow didn't even get an assist throughout this entire game. So literally 0 KP Nasus is our only last man standing, trying to defend the base. I mean, at least the good news is that it's a Nasus, and Nasus, at least even if you're completely useless, you are still tanky, so you're not gonna die instantly, like a squishy. So I guess in that sense, if I really have to have some feeding guy on my team, I'd rather it be like a Nasus or like some other like actual tank than like being like a feeding vein in the top lane or something like that. So regardless, here we're going to continue keeping up our farm, building toward our Almo Reminder. Already got the anti-heal component. Now here, Blitzcrank actually gets caught, flashes away. Does have the Twin Guard active at this point. Now we don't really want to overcommit for a Blitzcrank. Set now comes in instead. And here the whole fight is kind of breaking out here. I get a ulti onto 2 people. Kaisa managed to escape. Huge shield coming in from me here. And Set does end up dying eventually. Kaisa gets caught, but you don't really want to do that, Kaisa, because you can see here I one-shot her 100-0. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now I'm at like 3 items, like I can one-shot people now. So Lilia and Lee Sin are coming from behind, which is pretty weird because like that's a really weird angle. Unfortunately for them, they end up dying. I kill both of them, and I am able to have enough lifesteal to not die basically. And at this point, the whole enemy team is dead. So likely we can end the game here. We're just waiting for the wave to come in. Dash into the tower, quickly trying to finish off the tower. At the same time, killing the minions and the tower at the same time, because Nilah obviously does AoE damage with her auto attacks. And then now we're just gonna focus the Nexus, and that should be it, unless Blitz can stop us, which he can't. So I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.